What's up, everybody? It's Clint from the Diehard MMA Podcast, brought to you by odds.com. And bro, I had another article that I stayed up late writing and working on for all of you that was supposed to be posted up today on odds.com. And it was my underdog breakdown. As y'all know, one of my best angles, one of the favorite things I like to do is spot underdogs in MMA. And I had picked out an excellent underdog for Wednesday's 7:15 card. I was going to take a stab on our boy John Phillips. He was welcoming a UFC newcomer, an undefeated Russian fighter, over to the cage. And I was telling everybody that he's the side. It was a good matchup. This guy would bring the opportunity for a knockout, which, as we know, Phillips struggles with the grappling. And this kid's just going to stand and bang with him. I was all set, locked and loaded, ready to go, but I was saying, wait. The money's coming in on the undefeated kid. We're going to get a better line before fight time, so don't lock it in now, but we'll get it. And what happens this morning but his opponent pulls? What is happening? All the work I'm putting in here, these articles, these fighters are falling off. Like, can't the fighters I don't write about be the ones who get canceled? I don't know what's going on. Luckily, it looks like John Phillips is getting an opponent replacement. MMA Junkie reported that Kazmat Chimaev, I believe, is the one stepping in on short notice. So our boy John Phillips is still going to be fighting. However, I need to research his opponent because now I know nothing about the guy that he is fighting. So more to come on that later. More than likely next week, I will be able to tell you a little bit more about that matchup. And obviously, at this point, we don't even have a line for it. So what I'm doing today is I'm bringing you an underdog, because we need an underdog for Qatar versus Ige happening on July 15th. Whether it's an article form or video form, y'all don't care. You just want a juicy underdog that you can get your money down on, and I am not going to let you down. There is another underdog that I was planning on potentially doing my article on that I was just going to end up making a bet. He wasn't going to be an underdog play because he's less of an underdog than John Phillips was. The line is a little bit closer, but it is a fighter who I liked nonetheless. We're going to talk about Jared Gordon taking on Chris Fishgold. So what we've got is Jared Gordon is 15-4 in the UFC, taking on Chris Fishgold, who is 18-3. So both of these guys are in that weird middle zone where they've fought really good guys in the UFC and they've been finished by them. And then they've fought some lower level talent and they have done pretty well against that lower level talent. So both these guys are solid. Both these guys probably do belong in the UFC, but at what level? That's the question. So Jared Gordon is a guy who I'm incredibly respectful of. I love this guy's story. He fought back from addictions and things like that to become a world-class MMA fighter. And here he is coming back to us, but he's coming off one of the most brutal knockouts I've ever seen. He fought Charles Oliveira in November and got absolutely flatlined in that fight in the very first round. Since he's been in the UFC, he's 1-3. All three of those losses have been by KO. This guy's chin is something that I am extremely concerned with. I know the point of this video is to pick an underdog and focus on the underdog, but one of the main reasons I'm making this bet is not entirely so much the underdog, but the fact that his opponent's chin is something that I'm highly questioning at this point. Now, Jared Gordon normally fights at 155 pounds, and he is dropping weight to 145. This is another thing that personally I can't stand. When you're dropping a weight class, you're looking for new life, you're going to a new division, generally you want to see people go up. If you're cutting too much weight, like Kama Worthy a couple weeks ago, he was having a hard time at 145, he jumps up to 155, he looks like a new man, an absolute monster, cashed as a giant underdog for us. You don't want to be going the other direction. If you're struggling with the big guys, you've taken a ton of damage, and now you're saying, I'm going to take some more water out of my brain and go fight these guys, I don't like it. So he's cutting an additional 10 pounds to drop down and take on Chris Fishgold. Now, Fishgold, you may look at his record and go, Clint, what are you talking about? This guy's only got 2 knockouts on his record. He's a submission guy. Well, we know Jared Gordon is a wrestler, so he's going to look for the takedown here, high volume, make this a fight, and then if it hits the mat, Chris Fishgold is ready to go on the mat. This guy has a 72% submission rate. 13 of his 18 wins have come by submission. So he is more than capable of finishing this thing if it hits the mat. The thing you may not know about Chris Fishgold is he's actually got some pretty heavy hands. Before the fight hits the ground, he does decent work on the feet, and he can hurt his opponents. Mainly thinking back to his initial debut in the UFC against Calvin Kattar, he didn't look half bad. Now, I know that was only a one-round fight. He did end up getting KO'd. But this is Calvin Kattar, folks. We're talking about the guy who I think is going to be fighting for a UFC title very, very soon. And in my opinion, probably the best boxer in the division. This guy's got heavy hands, a reach advantage. Fishgold was in a bad spot. We all know about Kattar's takedown defense as well. So if you're a ground game or a submission fighter and you're looking to get on this guy, ain't happening. So poor Chris Fishgold gets put in a very bad spot for his UFC debut. Now he bounces back with a submission win over Daniel Tamer, and that's what we're talking about. Tamer may not be the most impressive opponent, but he finished him. He did exactly what you're supposed to do when you fight a caliber of guy that you're better than. He didn't squeeze out a decision. He didn't just barely get by him. He put him down. And that's where Jared Gordon, when he came off of his initial first two losses via KO to Carlos Ferreira and Joaquim Silva, he fought Dan Moret. And that was a hairy, nasty fight. He went for the takedowns. He got rocked a couple of times. He dug deep. He dragged through it. He ended up getting a decision win. But I really favor the submission finish of Chris Fishgold in this kind of situation. These guys have a lot of parallels with each other, and it's a very close fight because of that. I think a lot of people are thinking that Jared Gordon is going to be the bigger man in the cage. They're thinking he might be, physically stronger than Fishgold, and I simply don't know if that's true. When it comes to a size perspective, these guys are almost identical. If you think back to the original UFC days in Goldie, virtually identical. They're gonna be the same size and I think about the same strength, and really, you don't want to be trying to take a guy like Chris Fishgold down. Now, he's coming off of a loss to Makwan Amirkhani. That was an unfortunate situation where he looked fine against Makwan Amirkhani, but he found a guy that is better than him on the ground, and that was a fantastic scramble situation that they were in. He defended the submission extremely well. He just wasn't able to quite get out of it, and we know the level, the caliber of submission fighter that Makwan Amirkhani is. There's really no shame in getting submitted by that guy either. So here we go. Now we're looking at this opportunity to bet the underdog. He's plus 120, so not nearly as juicy as John Phillips being plus 160 or higher, but I really like Chris Fishgold in this spot. He checks off all my boxes. He's got high fight IQ, he knows what he does best, and he never gives up. You've really got to put this guy completely out for him to stop fighting. He's going to be coming forward on the feet, on the mat, hunting for submissions, looking for that finish the entire time. And he's facing an opponent who, like I said, has a questionable chin. I actually think that Chris Fishgold has underrated striking and underrated power. I expect him to land a KO here. He was actually just interviewed by our boy here at odds.com, James Lynch. You can find that interview here on the Odds HQ channel yourself. Go listen to it. He knows, all right? Chris Fishgold and I have obviously not communicated here, and I planned to give him out as a bet expecting to get the knockout here. Whether this thing takes place on the ground and he gets a TKO, or if he just lands a big bomb on the feet, he's got the type of power it would take to hurt someone like Gordon, and especially after the last couple of knockouts he's taken. I gotta wonder how much more Gordon can take from anybody. I mean, you don't come back from knockouts like the one he took from Charles Oliveira. You don't come back from that easily. You don't come back from that rapidly. And we're talking 3 knockout losses since February of 2018. That's a lot of punishment. So as much as this is a bet on Chris Fishgold, this is a fade of Jared Gordon. That's my play. That's your underdog for UFC 715 Qatar versus Ige. Chris Fishgold, plus 120. I'm on it. You should be too. Good luck, everybody. Let's roll.